Hello, welcome to the Master of Data Science and Computational Linguistics Facebook Live session. I'm Ryan Taylor, and I'm here with a couple of panelists. I'll be the moderator for today. So I've got Aaron, Nikki, and Brian Jick, who's the program director, a couple of students, faculty person. So hopefully just get each of you to introduce yourselves, tell us a bit about who you are and what interested you in the program.
Am I going first?
Go ahead, Aaron. Yeah, sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Aaron. I'm from China. I get my bachelor's degree in finance in China, and then I went to United States to get my master's degree in computational finance.
Okay.
Yeah, I have work experience in finance and consulting industry.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
I was previously a student at UBC as well. I just finished my bachelor's from Faculty of Medicine, Pathology, and what made me interested in data science in general was coding. Yeah, and I wanted a field so it makes this transition smooth for me because my background was not in coding and computer generally, and I found this field to be a very smooth transition.
That's very interesting, and I imagine there are a lot of people watching today who also have that interest. And so, Brian, do you care to talk about your vision for the program as director?
Sure. I mean, at the moment, the Master of Data Science and Computational Linguistics is new. We're excited to sort of see how this cohort is moving through, how we're learning about the system, learning about the course, and
I think it's been going remarkably smooth for a first year. Too.
And it's really been going great. And one of the things that that's been especially strong, I think, in this particular that's especially strong about this particular program is the close relationship between the different fields that are involved in contributing to it. In order to, I think, make sense of how data science works in the context of language, you really have to have a number of different players at the table. You need to really have buy-in from computer science, from statistics, from linguistics, and all of those. This program is really sort of built collaboratively, and that
so
collaboration is working well.
That's part of how it started so smoothly, is just moving off of the work that they had done already, because it's built off of a program that's been around for a few years. Mm-hmm. So what is it, throw it to Aaron, what was it when you were looking at the Master of Data Science and Computational Linguistics, what was it that interested you in this program specifically relative to other programs?
I think you can tell the difference by the name. So this program is called MDS, right? Mm-hmm. So I think those data science courses are very essential if you want to be a computational linguist.
Right.
Yeah. So actually, to be honest, 75% of the courses we have taken are data science courses, such as programming in Python, R, data wrangling, data visualization, and also regression and supervised learning.
So it's a really strong foundation.
Yeah, I think these courses build a pretty solid foundation for us to use our linguistic skills later in practice. Yeah.
And Nikki?
To specifically answer your question, what made me interested in this program, because as I was saying, I loved fell in love with coding, and I wanted this transition, and I wanted to stay within Canada, and within Canada I found UBC to be one of the best data science programs, and this was what made me interested in UBC in general to continue. Yeah.
Okay. And because if you look out there are programs like Master of Data Science that are based within an institution, a university like UBC, but there are also coding camp, boot camp type things. What was it that made you think that this was the right option as opposed to something like that?
I think the biggest benefit you get of coming to this program is you got to work with a lot of people with different background.
Right.
So when we are working on the question, like people from different backgrounds tend to approach the same question from different angles.
Right.
So that's very interesting.
And so you say different backgrounds. This is different backgrounds in terms of the fields that they come from.
Oh, yeah. For example, I'm from the background of finance. So
right.
in our class, we have students coming from mathematics, statistics, computer science, and also, of course, linguistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Very interesting. So what is the most valuable thing that you've gained from the program so far? And I should mention that we're at this point in time, you're coming up on halfway through the program, I guess, and so you've got a good sense of the first part of the program. There's still a lot more to come, but at this point in time, what is it that you've learned that you've really thought is really interesting, fundamental?
Everything. I'm like from coding to statistics to like NLP, like natural language processing. All of it is really interesting and relevant, I would say. It's just like it's applicable to like what you see in everyday world, which is very interesting. Like it makes you to think, look, how can I use this in my, like if I have a question, how can I apply this subject? And like instructors put it in a way that you can easily apply to like multiple fields, which is really nice.
Oh, that's great. And so it's not sometimes people associate university programs with being very, very high level, but they've got sort of the high level, the good mathematics behind the linguistics behind it, but there's also an applicable
exactly
using real world examples.
Yeah.
Excellent. And what are the things as you look forward, and maybe I don't want to put you too much on the spot, but if you look forward at the courses that are to come, are there some that jump out at you as being interesting that you're looking forward to, parts of the program that you're excited about?
I mean, for me personally, I look forward to the sentiment analysis course.
Sentiment analysis.
Yes, because since I'm from finance, and in finance industry, a lot of people started using natural language processing tools to measure the sentiment of the market, to make better investment strategies. So that's the area I'm interested in.
And for me, it's just like the advanced supervised learning. I'm really look forward to see what can I do with it.
And so what was your process for finding this program? Did you wake up one day and think, computational linguistics, this is what I want to get into, or was it through some other way? What was the actual process for you to find this program?
For me, no, it was not one night. No, I knew it in my end of my third year, beginning of my fourth year. I knew that I want to switch my field to something more computer related. So I started getting myself involved in projects that they use coding, or some projects that they use natural language processing, which made me very interested in this field generally. Yeah, and no, it was not one night. Yeah.
So I already said that I'm interested in sentiment analysis. Yeah, sentiment analysis is like a major application of computational linguistics.
Right.
So when I was searching like last year online, there were actually not too many options out there. So I mean, this program is in UBC. UBC is probably like one of the top tier universities in Canada. So the decision for me is quite easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you find, Brian, that people who come to the program, what are they looking for when they're coming? Are they coming maybe they have something specific that they want to learn, like sentiment analysis, or are they interested, they have linguistic tools that they want to put to the test, put to the service of computation? Do they have something specific in mind, or what kind of background do people come with?
Yeah, we've got a really wide range of different backgrounds, and the program is really built. I mean, that was one of the biggest challenges in building the program, but also one of the things that I think is it's one of its greatest strengths is that it really can accommodate people coming from really different looking backgrounds. So we've got people coming from industry, a variety of different industries. We've got people with backgrounds in linguistics, people with backgrounds in journalism, people with backgrounds in computation or finance, or all sorts of different, or physiology, or just so many different backgrounds. And the common interest, I would say, is there's generally a shared interest in language data, being able to work with language data. I mean, one of the things that maybe is hard to wrap your brain around sometimes is that, you know, when you think about the internet or you think about the way we interact with our devices, it's just a huge amount of that is language.
Yeah.
Right? And so when people start going down that road of saying, gee, I'm interested in this question or that question having to do with you know, how we make use of the internet as a space, or how we make use of social media, or how we make use of language in marketing, it's you know, so many different areas, you sort of keep running into this same problem of like, gee, how do I actually analyze language at this scale? Yeah. And that's exactly what we're able to do. So that's one of the, I think this is why like we're getting applicants from so many different areas, different sectors and so on. So yeah, lots of different backgrounds.
And so speaking of, again, of different backgrounds, it seems like both of you came to the program with very specific ideas of the kinds of things that you wanted. Do you find true of all of the folks that you're in the program with?
Generally, yes. People have a solid a lot of people come from industry and they've been in the work field for like, I don't know, like 8 years, and they decided to switch. So I think you have to be pretty determined to come out of the workforce and dedicate these 10 months to study. So I think yes, people know what they want.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think about the differences of, because some people see there's Master of Data Science, Computational Linguistics, Master of Data Science, Vancouver, and these are different programs. So how would you describe the difference between those two programs?
In Python, like list, dictionary, strings, and set, and how to use them, because knowing those things can be like very helpful, like when you come into this program. Right. Yeah, and if you have more time, probably learn something about NumPy, pandas as well. Yeah. So
I should mention at this point that we are not going to be talking about admissions specifically, but so we won't get into all the coursework that might be necessary. But what I'm hearing from you is to maybe go a bit above and beyond in terms of learning about those things. Okay. And it sounds like you had some of those skills before coming to the program. Are you finding it a challenge now?
Generally, I think like have some background is like necessary. Like know what is Python, know what is R. Like don't let it be the first time you hear about these things when you come to the class. But you don't need to be very strong in them, because the courses are laid out for people with no background, so they build up, but they build up very quickly, so you have to be able to catch up. So I would definitely recommend, like beside the requirement courses, like maybe take the summer to go through these online sources of there's a lot of data science online websites that you can study from, and definitely be familiar with the words at least, so you're not lost once the course starts. Yeah.
And I guess it's probably not a bad idea for people to be looking into these things, to try maybe a very basic tutorial before applying, just to see if they like it.
Yeah.
How did you do something like that in order to determine, because you said that you were interested in data science. Did you do a project on your own before?
Yeah. I've done multiple projects with labs in UBC, and that's initially how I got interested in this field. And as I learned more, I was like, oh, I like this very much. Actually, I like to do this for the rest of my life. So that's how I generally switched. But I would definitely suggest exposure before coming to the field, because it's a very binary thing. So you either like it or you dislike it, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
So figure out whether you like it first. Aaron, you're nodding along with that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So what is the most exciting course that you've taken in the program so far? Is there one course or one sort of sub-project within a course that jumps out at you?
For me, I would say it's data structure and algorithms.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very interesting course, because I learned Python before, but I never had a chance to learn those like basic like data structure and the algorithms. And this course I think helped me like fill the blank space of that area. Yeah.
For me, like all of them are very interesting, but if I want to point at one, it's like supervised learning is where you kind of grasp the idea of what is the power of computers and how you can use them. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. It's interesting too because I think Aaron, you mentioned something it's kind of a fundamental course, and you're talking about something that's AI. So it's nice that you're enjoying the whole swath of offerings that are here. So I'd like to get into talked a bit about the challenge of the course, and I'll get you to try to answer as yourself, but maybe thinking about some of your classmates as well. So we've had questions like, are you able to hold down a part-time job while doing the program?
Absolutely not. Yeah, that's a big no. Even sometimes maintaining physical activity could be hard. So I would definitely suggest applicants to dedicate these 10 months to grasp as much as they can from this program and not focus on anything else.
Right.
I would say if you have a strong programming, computer science background, probably you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe for folks that have a job that they would be able to do a little bit of side gig type work.
Yeah.
Then, okay. But nothing that requires you to do a shift from a certain time to a certain time every day. No. So this is a question more for Brian. What are the job prospects in the area of data science in computational linguistics?
I don't know. I might kick that partly back to you.
So this is, I was worried about this happening because I am the career services coordinator for the MDS CL, and I can say that we've just gone through the process of soliciting some capstone projects, and that there was really quite a lot of interest from industry for those capstone projects. And I mean, there's not a one-to-one relationship between capstone projects and jobs, but it shows, for one thing, that there's an interest out there in industry. It's also the case that if you look at the job advertisements that are out there and the way that companies are going, that there is a lot of interest in that. I think, Brian, you were talking to somebody from law.
I mean, it's just exploding, and the of course, almost all of the most valuable companies in the world at the moment are working really intensively in the area of areas very centralized centered on computational linguistics.
Right.
But so computation, language, how the internet and interfacing with devices and so on. But and so we all think of the Facebooks and the Apples and the Microsofts and so on, but we may not all be thinking that every company that wants to have a presence wants to interface with the internet has to be able to do this work, from at any scale. So just it's remarkable that almost every company is thinking about this stuff. Certainly every sector is thinking about this. We've got just huge expansions going on in law, journalism, and so on, national security. Just
as
this
Aaron
past
was mentioned, finance.
So just this past couple of days, I've had I've been independently approached by people with really in these very different. Those are the three that just popped out of my mind, because
Right.
those are three people in the last couple of days who've come to me and said, hey, this is what's going on in law. This is what's going on in journalism. This is what's going on in national security.
Right.
And there's one of the biggest things that surprised me, and I know we'll get back to this later in the conversation, but when we started first looking at this, it's sort of developing in this area at UBC, we started talking to other universities that in the world that were already doing work in this area, and rather than viewing us as competitors, we were really surprised at that time that they were like, geez, what can we do to help? How can we help you set this up? Because we can't there's no way that we can absorb all of the demand in this area. So it's there's tons of stuff going on, and I don't know that we've even I don't know that anyone's really sort of fully wrapped their brain around what the scope of it is at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's really just changing the way that
work happens.
That work happens. Exactly. Yeah.
And so both of you who had come from a background that you'd seen, I guess, a bit of the world before coming here, was there a particular job was there a job that came up in an organization you thought, I want to do that job? Or was your thought broader than that? Because you mentioned sentiment analysis, Aaron, like I want to do sentiment analysis and let's see where I apply it, or are there specific positions that you were interested in post-graduation?
There's not a specific position I want to work like in my mind. So I want to probably I mean right now my focus is still in the program. I want to learn everything to do my best. Yeah.
And has it opened up your mind in terms of what kinds of applications there are for these things?
I think it's limitless. It's just like tip of the iceberg, as Brian said. I think every field, every industry needs data science, and specifically natural language processing is a main aspect of those companies. And as bigger the companies are, like Google, like Amazon, they have huge departments dedicated to natural language processing, and it's growing for every smaller companies as well. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So it keeps you motivated as you do the program. And did you find, I guess I'll start with Brian, because this is a professional degree rather than a research degree. So would you be able to speak to what that meant in terms of program design? And then I think afterwards I'll ask you how those design decisions feel now that you're in the program. But
I think one of the biggest things that really helped us out there was that the Master of Data Science program at the Vancouver campus already existed and had sort of worked through some of those sort of initial bumps of creating this kind of professional degree in this environment and in the current climate in industry and so on. So I think we were very lucky in that respect. They had started a couple of years before we came on board. We independently were wanting to develop in this area, and really were able to see that the work that they had done in constructing things. Really, they had thought things out very, very well. So, I know again we'll talk a little bit more about sort of the history. Perhaps as we go along, but I would say the structure of the programs really is intertwined. It's really, there's a strong base, and then we sort of specialize in different directions out of that, and then end with of course with the capstone at the end of the 10 months. So it all happens very fast, but at the end, you go from, and this is of course very different from a more academically focused program where you'd be working your way towards a research project, and it would normally be over a longer time. By the end of the program, in our case, everyone will have ends the program having had some industry experience, a chance to work with a partner outside of the institution, working on a project to actually sort of get something done, which I think is also really a strength.
So what I didn't hear you mention is a thesis.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's no thesis.
No thesis. It's again, it's very much at the end, instead of doing a thesis, you're doing a practical application that's really, and the capstones are, as you were saying before, proposed by industry partners, and so these are real projects that have real legs, and that the industry partners really want to get done. So it's not just you're coming in and you're doing sort of a canned project or a simulation of a project. This is so at the end of 10 months, not only have you acquired the skills, but you instead of doing a thesis, you're really doing work.
Rather than making them do a massive writing project, we're actually getting them to do what they're going to be doing in industry. How novel. How does it feel? How does this program feel different from other types of program? I mean, obviously you haven't been in every program, but how does this feel in terms of the structure of the program?
I think it's more compact.
More compact.
Because it's a 10 months program. You need to absorb a lot of material in these 10 months. But I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing, and you got to learn all the material like in this period of time, and
For me to talk more specifically, like we hand in like 4 labs each week,
right.
And each of these labs are dedicated to that topic of that week's, like the topic that is being taught. And I feel like instead of having more exams, having more projects makes you more hands-on, gives you more practice. And we work on like real data sets, we work on real corpora, which makes you, when you go to the industry, to not be lost and to know what it looks like to handle real things,
right.
rather than just theoretical exams, which I really like about this program.
One thing that we've gotten a couple of questions about are sort of more specific about the timing of the day. And so, are you waking up at 4 in the morning and then studying until 8 o'clock at night? What does a day in the life of an MDS student look like?
I would get up at around 7 and study for an hour, going to class. So all of the classes are in the morning, so the labs are in the afternoon. So after the lab, I probably work for probably 3 or 4 hours and go to bed. It's not that crazy actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, same for me. I wake up like around, depends on where, like our classes starts at 9 or 9:30, and then we come here. We have like 2 classes back to back, and then we have few hours of gap between our classes and the labs, which is a great study time to catch up or anything else. And after you go home, I'm not gonna lie, you have to work.
Right.
It's not going to bed immediately. You have to work, but it's not heavy work. It's nice. Yeah.
You feel like you're working with purpose, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a sort of rather different 4-week block system that's quite short relative to typical academic semesters. So do you want to talk about why that decision was made? Why the short blocks as opposed to a full semester?
Well, again, this was a structure that was implemented by the MDSV group before, in the couple of years before we came on. But it's a little bit, I think it's a kind of program design that's, I think it's got some currency in other institutions. In a way, there are a couple of advantages to it. One is that it allows you to modularize your program.
Right.
You can say, okay, we need an injection of this at this time, and actually, if you're gonna move off in this new direction, we need to get some of this in before
Right.
and so you can move the pieces around more easily. Whereas if you have large, in a 10-month sequence, if you had a full semester that was fixed and then another full semester that was fixed, you'd be done. And there's very little flexibility that you have in that space.
Right.
So it allows you to be quite intensive, but also to have some flexibility about how you can build programs.
Okay. And so how does it feel to be in this 4-week block system? What do you think about that?
It's really fast forward. Like, you have to stay on top of things,
Right.
but it keeps you sharp at the same time. I was
Right.
just like, you go over different materials very, very quickly, but
Right.
at the same time, it's not that each block is not relevant to the next block. You still carry those material. You need to use them in next blocks
Right.
as well. So it's not irrelevant to each other,
Right.
but at the same time, it's fast-paced, as you talked about it. Yeah.
So does it feel more like day to day you're working on the same more similar things relative to past degrees you might have done, where one Friday you learn something and then you get tested on it 3 Fridays away or something? Does that compactness keep you more? I guess you said it keeps you more focused.
Yeah, it keeps you on your toes basically. Like you have to stay on top of things, and which is a good thing for this short amount of time. Yeah.
And are there? So you said that there are labs, and are there exams? How does that?
We actually have a quiz for each course every 2 weeks.
A quiz for each course every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So the quiz is not very long; it's 30 minutes. Like most of the questions are like short answers and multiple choices to test like your understanding of conceptions. Yeah.
And so, are you ever allowed any break from this? Are there any break periods throughout the entire year?
We have a 1 month break coming up.
1 month break coming
Yeah,
up, so you do get a
interested.
chance to reset a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe sleep.
Yeah.
And so we touched on how it might be possible to do some kind of piecework type contract work in programming or something. A 9-to-5 job, totally out of the question. Even a part-time job that requires you to be there for a certain amount of time every day is probably out of the question. But for you, Aaron, as an international student, how is it possible for you to support yourself without working for the 10 months?
I would say coming here without working for 10 months is really hard, but I think it's worthwhile.
It's worthwhile.
It's worthwhile because I have this 10 months dedicated to this material, and I think, and you guys talk about the job market for computational linguistics, so I think this 10 months is worthwhile, and the investment we made into this program is also going to be paid off. Yeah.
Okay. And so I have a question coming in here. Do you recommend any background or supporting online courses or material for CL? Are there any, you can say any specific courses that you liked online?
Online. I think Codecademy was really good. I tried it in summer before coming to the program, and it's a really it gives you an idea what is going on.
Sure.
Yeah, I would suggest for applicants to take a look at that. Yeah.
I would say if you just like search Python on YouTube, there are a bunch of resources there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
Yeah. Pick one and stick to it. I think.
Yeah, there's short courses and long courses, and there are all sorts of things out there. That's
Right.
for sure.
Pick one and stick to it. So don't jump around, because these things kind of build on each other.
Yeah.
You have to work your way through. Yeah, for sure.
And how do you find, because Aaron, you said that you lived in a few different places, and we talked about how you support, and I asked this as somebody who lives in Vancouver and kind of knows the answer, is Vancouver a cheap city? Or
Definitely not.
Definitely not, yeah. So cost of living, I mean, it is a relatively high cost of living, so be aware of that before you come, but I think both of you feel that it's worth it. So.
And it's a beautiful city. I would
Yeah,
definitely say it's worth the money.
I almost wish we could see the mountains. It's a beautiful,
Yeah.
clear day out the window there. But
Yeah,
you'll have to come and see.
We get the view right now. It's just like looking at the mountains. So fantastic.
So, let's see. Sorry. Was it difficult, Aaron, to find a place in Vancouver, being that you were from out of town?
I don't think so. There are actually a lot of like websites such as Craigslist, like you can find a place to live. There are actually, I think there are a lot of apartments for rent, like especially like on campus and around the campus.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not difficult to find a place to live.
Yeah. And I would definitely suggest applicants to look, if they want to look for a place around the campus, close to the campus, because it takes less time to commute.
Right.
Yeah, and it's nicer.
Right.
Considering like this program is a like kind of intense program, you need those like sleep times, I guess.
Yeah.
Crucial hours.
Yeah.
Another place to consider looking is UBC Rents Line also has a website with ads that tend to be for housing closer to campus, and isn't always you won't always find the same ads on Craigslist and so on. So yeah, there are a few different places, but UBC Rensselaer's a pretty good one to look at.
Yeah. If you're admitted to the program, we can give a bit of advice on caution, because there sometimes you hear stories of people putting down deposits, so don't put down the deposit sight unseen.
I think that's true anywhere you go. Yeah,
It's
for
true.
sure.
It's not specific to Vancouver, but are there any particular tips that you might have for international students, Aaron, who are just coming to the?
I would say, like, after coming here, like be open to the environment, be open to the new environment, like make friends, talk to people, talk to your classmates, your professor, and based on my experience, like everyone here is like friendly to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think experience it. Yeah, that's my suggestion.
So I know that you studied in the United States before. You studied in China, I believe.
Yeah.
How does it compare, like the classroom experience, the interactions with colleagues and classmates relative to those places?
So I mean, actually, I think the one thing I like most about this program is that we have a relatively smaller cohort.
Right.
So we have only like 27 people. So our instructor have a chance to know each of us really well, and provide help accordingly.
Yeah.
So I think that is very good.
What is the ratio of instructor to students like? Is it easy to get help from a teaching assistant or an instructor?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah. So and not only during the lecture and labs, and they're also like on Slack all the time. If you have any question, you can just send a direct message to them. Yeah.
They're very open about it, and it's really useful. Yeah.
Very supportive. Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear. Was that important in creating the program? The ratio of, I'm getting a yes.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and it's different from the ratio that you would get in a typical academic class, because it's intensive and because it's professionally focused, and a short window. It's there is a lot more classroom support than you would get in a typical class, and so that means that there's always a lecturer, a primary instructor, there's always a lab instructor, there are always TAs and so on. So even for a small class, like normally at UBC, if you had a class of 27, you wouldn't have that kind of support. There would be an instructor, and if you were lucky, there might be a TA. But for a class that small, you wouldn't normally have that kind of support. So having that level of support, I think, really is a crucial part of being able to move quickly, because there is a lot of material to cover. Right. But we understand that people can't drop their lives for 2 years or 3 years and expect to be able to keep afloat in the meantime.
Right.
So making an intensive program like that really it's designed that way to service the people who really are leaving whatever their lives are and coming here and just being here and getting that material as quickly as possible, and so you need to have the support there.
Right. So to move back outside, I've got a question about sort of work-life balance, and what are the fun things to do on campus or in Vancouver to relax or have fun?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Code Python?
I would say the winter here is warmer than the place I used to be.
Okay.
So I like jogging, so I jog a lot here. So when it's not raining, yeah.
So do you just jog on campus, or do you jog off campus a bit?
I jog off campus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There are lots of beautiful parks in the Vancouver
very
area.
beautiful city. Yeah.
It's beautiful trails for walking, hiking. I would say Vancouver is like I think one of the most beautiful natures.
Yeah.
So if you're fond of that, that's your city. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people. I mean, one of the things that I appreciate, and I know a lot of other people appreciate about living here, is that even though there are times in the year when it's wet and there are times of the year when it's dry, but there's really no time in the year when you're buried in snow or ice, and or so sweltering that you can't, you can't leave the air conditioning. And so because it stays relatively temperate, it means that, once you get comfortable in the climate and, you get your rain gear and whatever, personally, I cycle to work every day of the year. Well, I don't work every day of the year, but every day that I go to work, I cycle to work. And, so in that way, I think it really lends itself to a more outdoors kind of lifestyle, but it also means that that you can stay fit. As it's easy to stay fit as just part of your, you can, if you're walking places or biking places or whatever, it's possible to work hard and still have a sort of, have a little bit more of a well-rounded lifestyle, and that is a big part of living in Vancouver. There's I think a real priority on work-life balance here in general. I mean, I do a lot of rock climbing, so without.
Don't tell them about the amazing rock gym on campus.
No, not a word. It's a well-kept secret. But yeah, no, there's all kinds of activities, physical activities, and gyms and whatever if you want to do that. But of course, all sorts of other activities as well. So, as any major city is going to have, major international city is going to have.
Yeah, it's nice with all of the parks. I mean, you certainly can get a gym membership. There are reduced rates for gym memberships on campus, or you can go for a run in Pacific Spirit Park, which is just beautiful nature. So.
But likewise, if you're, there are music opportunities, there are all sorts of cultural opportunities and social opportunities and so on. So depending on what kind of work-life balance you're looking for, it's a great city for that. Yeah.
So it's another question from Facebook coming in. It's apart from languages such as Python, R, etc. Are there specific tools like Tableau that folks use?
We don't use Tableau.
Not
you
yet,
don't use
at least.
Tableau. Okay. So what are some of the tools that you are using within some of the packages that you're using in Python maybe so far?
Yeah, I mean, since we are major dealing with language, so there's a library in Python called NLTK.
Okay.
I would say at least get familiar with that, know what it is,
right.
And the basic functions of it. Yeah,
right.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, and a bit of SQL, I think. Because
SQL.
SQL. Yeah, because we deal a lot with data sets, so I think know what is that at least.
So do students experience any disadvantages of having a short program of 10 months as compared to a regular master's program of 2 years? Is the material covered well-rounded enough to be competitive in the industry? So I guess maybe I'll get you to give your perspectives, people who want to go to industry and have some experience in industry, and then maybe Brian can talk about how the program was shaped with that in mind. So is it well-rounded enough in your estimation?
I think our course, considering all the courses, we are learning everything that is necessary for us. Yeah. But the thing is, I think after this program, we still need to spend probably more time to digest all the material.
Right.
Because it's a lot of things we are learning. So it is very challenging for me personally to digest everything I learned in the first time. So I probably need more time to review the material for the second time or third time. Yeah.
But I think this is true for any master's programs that you go with. It's more of self-study. Masters, you become kind of higher than bachelor's. Rather than having every material in bachelor's, you kind of have to dig it in yourself to learn, basically. And I think it's the same thing with this program as well. They give you the material that you need to know, and you can go deep as much as you want in the program, in the materials. So it really depends on you, I think. But I think it covers the topics that needs to be covered for a job, and it depends on you how you get familiar with it, how you get comfortable with that.
And is this maybe part of the rationale of the capstone that it gives people an opportunity to really deploy those?
Yeah, so there, I think a few things. So in that, so if you look at the curriculum of programs that run longer, they tend to cover, we all cover, all of these programs tend to cover the same bases. It's a question of how, to a large degree, it's a question of how intensive you're going to be. And in our case, we decided that we really wanted to service those people who wanted to get into the job market relatively quickly, which means, somebody's, you're not going to be able to have a part-time job or a full-time job on the side. You're going to come and this is what you're going to do for 10 months. And at the end of the 10 months, it's intensive and you've digested a lot and you may need to go back through and review. But there's, I think all the same basic materials there. It's just, a question of how long you take to get through it. The other piece there, a couple of pieces, maybe to tie together a couple of things. You mentioned the capstones. The capstone projects, one of the things that you learn from doing a capstone project and from, it's the same thing you learn when you go to any job. You're learning the base of what you're going to need to know. When you get into any particular job or start any particular project, what you're going to find is that you need, wherever you go, you're going to need some on-the-job training. You're going to need to really dig into that particular set of problems, but you'll have the skill set that you need to understand how to approach it and what the tools are that are available to you. So I think that's maybe, I think going into any program thinking that you're going to come out knowing everything there is to know, I think that would be maybe the wrong way to look at it. I think you want to go into it thinking, am I going to get the basic training that I'm going to need to be able to tackle the unforeseeable variety of problems that might come my way when I move into one of these different areas in the future, right? And so that for sure is what we're trying to focus on, rather than rather than what I think is maybe the unrealistic goal of trying to sort of prepare for every eventuality. Right. You do get that skill set and that basic tool set and a chance to see how it applies both through the labs, but also particularly through the capstone.
Okay. So I have a couple of kind of lighter questions, I guess, which I kind of threw the question about starting as an international student in Vancouver to you, Aaron. So I'd like to ask Nikki, what tips do you have for a new student to the program? That could be just like arriving on campus, whatever.
If they're internationals?
No, for just new students in general.
I think like come a week before. Don't come like a night before.
Don't come the night before.
Your class. Come before. See the campus of UBC is a very huge campus. So just get yourself familiar with the campus, with the classes, how you can commute to the campus and back and forth. So that's one tip. And the other tip is to just get to know the UBC clubs. There's a like, I don't know, 1,000 clubs or so in UBC for every interest. Right. So make yourself home, I would say, before you start your courses and your program.
So there's actually one tip about like apartment hunting. If you wish to like live close to the campus, live very close to the campus, like within walking distance. But if you live like kind of like close to the campus, but you still need to take the bus. Like sometimes the bus here, when they are full, they don't stop for that. So in a few scenarios, I have to like walk to the campus for like 45 minutes. So yeah. So if you plan to live close to the campus, live like within walking distance. Yeah. Right.
Or have a bicycle.
Or have a bicycle. Yeah.
Because usually I find myself riding past the buses and the cars and everything, And you can make it very fast.
So get out your favorite map application and figure out how long it takes on foot, on bike, on...
Yeah.
And do you have a favorite spot on campus?
I think it's definitely Rose Garden.
The Rose Garden.
Yeah, that one is pretty cool. Yeah, I would say so. And Wreck Beach is like really close to UBC too. That's a very beautiful beach.
Right.
Yeah.
Brian, do you have a favorite spot on campus?
I love Wreck Beach. It's true. Yeah, and I mean, you can. The cool thing about Wreck Beach is that you can. There's a long stairway down the cliffs to get down to the beach, and it's right on campus, the top of the stairway. And so you, by the time you get down to the bottom, first of all, you've left behind whatever you were thinking about. You're walking through this amazing old growth forest, down this cliffside, and you emerge onto this beach, and it's like, by that time you're in another world. It also is a place where, at the end of the day, again, little known secret, even if it's a cloudy or rainy day, you still get a sunset there, because the clouds that are, that are local to you, you're looking out over the ocean. So somewhere there are no clouds. You look far enough, and so when the sun sets, you can still see the sunset every day if you go down to Wreck Beach. And then the other thing is that at the end of it, you have to get back up to the top
You're
again.
all about forcing yourself to do more exercises.
By the time you get back up to the top, you're like really energized. So yeah, it's really great.
So it's a
So that's why I
400-meter
love it.
staircase. So it's a goodly amount of exercise.
That's great. Yeah. But yeah, there are a lot of beautiful spots on campus. Nitobe Garden's very beautiful too. If you like a really contemplative natural space, it's a traditional Japanese garden. It's really beautiful.
Getting back into more kind of technical questions, so how has your interest or experience with language helped you in the program so far?
I think you have to be like interested in learning language. Otherwise, it's gonna be very hard. Because we do all this. For example, in this block we do parsing.
Right.
I think that's a very challenging course for us. Yeah.
And so you, neither of you have a linguistics degree, but how do you find that nevertheless? Has it been really a challenge to master, or you both came maybe with a real strong interest in languages anyways?
I think if you don't have any background in linguistics, it's not a disadvantage. I would not say so. But because you're learning how to use computers and coding to manipulate language, so it's not that you have to know like deep down what is going on. You have to like know some basic structures. I would say I did not know that. Like I'm learning as I'm going, but it's not very different from other things that I'm learning. It's something on the side. So it's just and it's not dry or anything. I always sorry, but I thought language learning would be very dry, but it's not like that at all. Yeah.
I think having a language background will be helpful for this program, but it's not required.
Right.
Yeah.
I can also say that we do have students who are coming straight from linguistics, and those students so far are who really don't have the more technical background, and of course they meet the requirements for the program, the entry requirements, but they're doing great. So I think again the program's really designed to accommodate a really wide range of backgrounds, and it's set up so that nobody's excessively challenged or excessively bored.
Right.
And it seems to be working out pretty well. And again, we're very lucky to have had a few years of experience behind the MDS approach and that kind of program structure that's really built to accommodate that range.
So as we're nearing the end here, I think it's interesting for a lot of people to talk about the differences between the MDS-V and the MDS-CL course, and so I don't know whether, Brian, you wanted to reiterate some of those differences between the two courses.
Yeah, I think the main difference really ends up being around the kind of data that you're going to be manipulating.
Right.
The MDS-V program it tries, I think, to be as general as possible about the kinds of data you might come across. MDS-CL is focused more particularly on just going a little bit deeper into the kinds of techniques that you would need to use to tackle language data problems. Right. And yeah, so generally the techniques that you need are just a little bit different, and that comes a little bit more intensely later in the program. So towards the end of the program, right. There's a little more divergence and a few more courses that are specific to MDS-CL that are more focused on language problems, more language data.
And so what do the MDS-CL students do that the MDS-V students do not do? Is it different kinds of languages that they're able to work with? Or?
Well, I would say one of the things, I mean, without getting, just without being technical about it, I think one of the things that is really different about this program is, and different from other programs, is that as well is that most of the focus of NLP, natural language processing, tends to be on languages for which there's a lot of data out there already, so right. English and Chinese and so on. But we also have we have one of our courses is on low resource languages, right. And that's one of the things that allows you to sort of pull together some things that you might not, some tools that allow you to sort of work with different kinds of languages.
We're just coming to the end here, so I'm going to get you guys, I don't know if you have 3 words to say before we say goodbye to everybody. What message would you want people who are considering the program to have?
Yeah, I would say enjoying it.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, enjoying the journey.
I would definitely say don't be scared. Apply. It's a really good program and it's worth your while. Yeah. So.
Yeah, check it out.
Check it out. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.